Hello, welcome back to Naughty Boy Fight Picks. You might have caught me live like 20 minutes ago, but my laptop was not complying with my wishes, so I acted and we're starting again, which is a pain in the ass, but hey, fuck it. Um, if you hear me mouth breathing, my nose is incredibly blocked. That's why, and I don't want to turn the mic down, so apologies if I'm mouth breathing. That's just how it's going to be today. Internet is fixed at home. We had issues last time we went live. So hopefully that is resolved and that's all better now. In regards to last week, had Don Rowe on, who some of you would have seen. He is a legit commentator on the sport with experience in combat sports. And he wrote some real pieces about 234. You can find them on the spinoff.com. He also did a radio interview about it with Radio New Zealand, which is quite insightful and eloquent. I'm not sure how you would find that, except for the Radio New Zealand website. But if you follow Don on Twitter or Instagram, you can probably find links. His Twitter and Instagram are both Don_Rowe. Rowe is spelled ROWE. Sweet. With that out of the way, what's happening? Oh, you'll notice we didn't do a recap last week. Matt and I had to go off and do separate things, so we didn't get one done. We do intend to get the show done for this week tomorrow, and if we have time, we should do a brief recap on UFC 234. Some pretty interesting things to talk about there. All that said and done, let's get into picks for this card. UFC on ESP1, Velasquez versus Ngannou, and I believe it's in Phoenix, Arizona. Hopefully my laptop stops fuck-assing around now. Seems to be sweet. First fight of the night, we have Alexandra Albu versus Emily Whitmire. Albu out of Russia. 7-0 it says on the UFC website, but I'm pretty sure Sherdog says something different. Pretty sure it says she's 3-0. I'll just check this out quickly. Man, I need a new laptop. I bought this one in fucking December, but it's shite. Let me see. I got so many windows open, which probably doesn't help, but I need them. So actually, I can get rid of a few. Let me see. Yeah, so on Sherdog it says Albu's 3-0, so I tend to rely on that rather than on the UFC website, which often gets things wrong. Anyhow, where are these notes? Albu 3-0. Two of those fights have been in the UFC, both wins, but not over good competition. It's been huge gaps between her three fights. The first one, 2013, the next 2015, and the one after that, 2017. I'm unsure for the reason for her recent break, but the previous ones were injuries, so probably more of the same, I imagine. She's really aggressive. She had a back and forth kind of fight with Kylan Curran, which isn't great, and she looks pretty unrefined, but quite a physical specimen. Emily Whitmire, she's 3-2, and she's been subbed in her last two most recent fights, and those submission losses were not against great opponents also. So whilst I had my suspicions about Albu's quality, I think she should get the win here over Whitmire, and method of victory likely to be a submission. So that's the pick there. Next fight of the night, terrifying. Former UFC champion Hannah Barrow versus Luke Cool Hand Sanders. Barrow with a record of 36-7, Sanders 13-3. Barrow's looked fucking terrible recently. If we go for his recent record, I think he's won one of his last 6 fights. Yeah, over Felipe Nova. That was a decision win. He's since the KO to Dillashaw, he's had the 4 decision losses and the 1 decision win, and we've just seen him gas early in fights, like really early, and I'm surprised he's still fighting at 135 given this recent run of losses. Burrell's only 32, but obviously with a record like that, he has aged in fight years and just looks like a shadow of his former self. Luke Sanders, not a great fighter. I faded him recently and won money, and that was in a fight. I'm pretty sure he's a favorite against what was his name? Where is it? Sorry, just looking this up. Against Honey Yaya. Yeah, so I got a prop bet on that, and Honey heel hooked him a minute and a half into that fight. Prior to that, he had losses to Sukmantar and Alcantara. So Sanders, not great, but I can't really pick Burrell over him here because of his recent run. Not in a betting sense anyhow. Just in the interest of wishful thinking, I'm going to pick Burrell. I think he probably needs a finish early if he's going to win because he fades so bad. So Sanders, yeah. So Sanders losses 2 subs and 1 KO. So it's possible Burrell could sub him, but he doesn't really play the ground game often. So yeah, gonna pick Burrell by a sub, and that's just wishful thinking. We'll see how we go. Okay, so my laptop has been slow as fuck again. Next fight of the night, Jessica Penne versus Jodie Esquibel. Penne 12-6, Esquibel 6-4. Esquibel, she's coming off 2 losses, the last to Aguilar, who has no other UFC wins. Esquibel is yet to post a UFC win, and she has a loss to Alex Chambers, which is shocking, obviously. Penne 12-5. She does have a UFC win over Randa Marcos, but has dropped her last 3 fights. 2 of those were to Andrade and JJ, who both finished her in the second round. Don't really trust either fighter here, but do slightly favor just Penne. Wouldn't bet it because she's flaky, but Penne by decision there. If you notice, I'm racing through this because I want to go to bed because I'm fucked. But where are we at? Next fight of the night. This could be a fun one. Scott Holzman versus Nick Lentz. Holzman 12-2. Lentz 31-9-2. Fuck, he's had 2 draws and a no contest as well. What was I thinking with this fight? Holzman 12-2. He's won his last 3 fights. He's 5-2 in the UFC. And he has a lot of finishes later on in fights, which bodes well. A guy that can tough for a fight and then get a finish towards the end. As for Lentz, 29-9. Lentz is real tough. He's hard to finish. He's not often finished. But yeah, I just think Holzman has an edge in all areas in this fight. He's the better striker, the better grappler. I don't think he'll finish Lentz. So I'm going to pick Holzman by decision here. And heaps of these fights look like they could go to decision. It could be a fucking long day on Sunday. For people overseas, cards play here on Sunday. We're a day ahead. We're living in the fucking future. Next fight of the night, Ashley Evans-Smith. Terrible nickname, Rebel Girl. Versus Andrea KGB Lee. Evans-Smith 6-3. Andrea Lee 9-2. Evan Smith is 6-3, like I just said, 3-3 in the UFC, and she's lost fights to some pretty middling competition. Andrea Lee is 9-2. She's on a 5-fight win streak, and her last win was her UFC debut over Macedo. Like the last fight, I think Lee's just better in all areas and pretty confident in her to win by decision. Evans Smith kind of tough. She should be able to stick out the 3 rounds. So Andrea Lee by decision. I think I got her in a parlay. I'll get to that after the picks. Next fight of the night, another good matchup. Benito Lopez, 9-0 versus Manny Bermudez. The Bermudez Triangle, good nickname, 13-0. Two undefeated fighters here. Where are we? Bermudez, in his 13 wins, has 10 wins by submission and has won his last 5. He's finished them by submission, and 2 of those fights were in the UFC. I just think Bermudez looks so dangerous here. Lopez is talented. He looks good, but I can't go past that streak of submissions that Bermudez has had recently. I just want to look into Lopez's record here. Just remind myself why I'm picking Bermudez. It's hard with 2 undefeated fighters. You gotta really look into it closely. And am I betting this fight? I don't think I am. I think I'm staying away from it because just don't want to bet against an undefeated fighter here. Yeah, so Lopez coming off a Contender Series win and then a win against Albert Morales. So, yeah, he hasn't fought the same level of competition that Bermudez has, really. So, picking Bermudez to get a signature submission win there. Next fight of the night, another really good fight. And I think this one may be higher up in the card, but on the UFC website, this is where it is. Jimmy Rivera, 21-2 versus Aljamain Sterling, 15-3. Rivera's got 100% takedown defense, and he's been around the UFC for a while. Just want to go and look exactly how many fights he's had in the UFC, but yeah, to maintain 100% takedown defense is pretty fucking incredible over a span of the amount of fights I'll tell you shortly. Let me know how the volume is, because this microphone has a limitless volume knob that just keeps turning and turning. But on my thing, it looks like it's all right. I'll give it a little nudge so you can hear how blocked my nasal passage is. Rivera. Lots of decision wins for Rivera. So obviously had that loss to Marlon Moraes, but prior to that, he was like on a streak of 18 wins or something of that nature. Yeah, so he's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 UFC fights, never been taken down. Guys he's fought include Dodson, Moraes, Almeida, Faber, Alcantara, Pedro Munoz. So there's some guys that score takedowns in that list, and he has not been taken down. So in regards to this fight, I can't see Sterling getting it to the ground, which is probably where I see him winning it. I don't think he wins a kickboxing match with Rivera. I think Rivera applies too much pressure and lands more shots typically in a fight. Sterling's looked improved lately, but I just think Rivera's a force. Both guys coming off devastating KOs to Marlon Moraes. Like I said before, that Rivera been on an 18-fight win streak, which is fucking incredible. That's kind of in the same vein as, what sort of guys have had streaks that long, like Habib, and I think Adanya's getting close to that, perhaps. But yeah, not many guys, very few and far between win streaks like that in professional MMA. Yeah, and after that loss, Rivera bounced back with a pretty comfortable win over Dodson. So pick here is Rivera by decision. I think he'll just be the better striker in this match, and he'll land more and make Aljamain uncomfortable. Aljamain likes to keep space and distance. So pick there is Jimmy Rivera by decision. Be good to see him get back on track. Or if Aljamain gets a win here too, that'll be kind of exciting. But a pretty confident pick there in Rivera, and I've got him in some parlays, or a parlay at least. Next fight of the night, another interesting one. This is a really good card. Andre Touchy Fairley, you gotta love that nickname, versus Miles Fury Jury. Fairley 18-6, Jury 17-3. Miles is a pretty tidy striker with some good grappling. He likes a slower pace fight than Fairley. He's got some really sound striking defense. And I think this fight comes down to whether Fairley can create some chaos in there. Fairley's looked all right recently, but he never really delivered on his early promise, kind of similar with Miles. I see this fight going to a decision, and I think Fairley will be the more active fighter and therefore edge out a decision, but not super confident in that one, so not playing it. Next fight of the night, another great fight. This is crazy. This card's good. So although there may be a lot of decisions, it should be a fun watch. There should be some wars. Vicente Luque versus Brian Barberena. Luque 14-6, Barberena 13-5. Luque has never been KO'd, which is Barberena's kind of most common method of victory. I think he's like 70% KOs. Just check that. Yeah, 77%, which is pretty crazy over 13 wins. And at this weight division, Luque has not been finished in 10 fights, and he's lost 2 of those 10 fights by decision, won the other 8. Barberena is a bit more busy, but I think Luque has a better striking defense. And Barberena's lost 3 of his last 4 fights that have gone to decision, something of interest there. I think Luque has a better wrestling and grappling, and I think he can get takedowns to steal rounds or to, if it's not going his way, on the feet. So confident in Luque here to get the decision win. Barberena does have power though, but I think Luque's too tough to be finished in this fight, at least. Next fight of the night, Alex Caceres, Bruce Leroy, 14-11. That looks like Adam Lobos record, nearly, versus Kron Gracie. Gracie making his UFC debut here. I would almost be tempted to have a play on Alex here, being more experienced and being a decent grappler, but he's got 6 submission losses on his record that freak me out. Caceres is a massive underdog here, and probably for good reason, really, but it's tempting to have a play, but I won't. Gracie's got just the 4 fights in Risen, but there's some names in there that you'll recognize. Caceres does have okay takedown defense, but I don't trust him to not go to the ground. So pick here is Gracie by submission. What's next? Man, really ripping through this. I can't wait to get to my boy, the human flamingo, James Vick. Next fight of the night, 11th ranked Courtney Casey, 8-5 against Cynthia Calvillo. People say it different ways. 6-1. Fancy Calvillo here. Casey's not been finished in 12 fights, and she's only ever been finished once. Cynthia does usually get her wins by way of finish, so that makes this fight kind of interesting. Casey's pretty tough, but I do favor Calvillo to get some control on the ground here, if not a sub. So gonna pick, and she's all right on the feet too. She's not terrible. So fancy Calvillo by decision here. Next fight of the night, James the lightweight, Stefan Struve, Vick versus Paul the Irish Dragon Felder. Vick 13-2, Felder 15-4. And if you recall, you're watching me when Vic went against Gaethje, you'll remember I was very passionate about the fact that Gaethje was going to smoke Vic, and he did. Felder, not quite the same fighter that Gaethje is, but he's a smart and tough fighter, and he has some good kickboxing. As for Vic, he has very poor accuracy. He's slow. He backs up straight with his head in the air. He's got poor footwork. He's hittable, susceptible to leg kicks and big overhands. He reacts poorly to pressure. He got some decent submission wins and a couple knockouts, but not against. Whenever he's had a step up in competition, he's lost, and I believe this is a step up here. Felder's super tough. He's got nice kickboxing, nasty elbows, good ground and pound, and got leg kicks here. I'm expecting Felder to win, but I'm unsure of whether he gets a finish or not. He's not the most powerful hitter, but he does have some knockouts on record. Well, actually, he has a lot of fucking knockouts on his record. Just want to check out what his recent run has been like. But yeah, Vic is real overrated, and like his record looks good, but if you look deeper into it, he hasn't beaten anyone. Like, people always say, oh, what about the Joe Duffy fight? It's like, yeah, what has Joe Duffy done recently? And yeah, people will be like, what about Vic's boxing? It's like, what fucking boxing? His hands are terrible, real inaccurate, real slow and sloppy. And he slows down pretty quickly in a fight too if it goes past the first. So that's another thing to watch for. Just trying to bring up Felder's record here. Obviously coming off that fight against Mike Perry up at welterweight, where he broke his hand and still went to decision. And I think if Perry can't get you out of there and you're fighting with one hand, I think it's unlikely Vic gets a finish. And if this goes to decision, then Felder's your winner all day. Yeah, oh fuck. Yeah, so prior to Perry loss, Felder is a good scout. The other two, whatever. He's got wins over Crookshank. I lost to Trinaldo. But yeah, easily favor Felder here, and I got money on him, obviously. Which brings us to, yeah, because you should always fade Vic if he's stepping up in competition. If he's not fighting someone that's if he's fighting anyone top 10, fade Vic. If he's fighting someone top 15 to 20, have a close look at it, because he ain't a top lightweight, that's for sure. Main event of the night, number 3 ranked Francis Ngannou, 11-3 versus Cain Velasquez, who has not fought in so long that he is no longer ranked. Real interesting fight, and I guess what it simply comes down to is what does Velasquez have left? Does he look anything like his former self? And if he's there or thereabouts, then I favor him to beat Ngannou all day. Velasquez is a way better wrestle boxer than Stipe has ever been, and has in fights against dangerous strikers, Stipe took a real long time to finish them because his gas tank isn't all there. So against Mark Hunt and Ngannou, for instance, I think if you put Cain against those guys when he was healthy, he would definitely get finishes. Fucking Cain's last fight was against Travis Brown in July 2016. Before that, he had the loss to Verdum, and before that, he had wins over JDS, Bigfoot Silva, JDS, and Bigfoot Silva. Fuck, there must have been hard times trying to find opponents. But yeah, he wins over Lesnar, Nogueira, Rothwell. But that's crazy. I didn't realize that about his record. He went Bigfoot, JDS again. Oh no, so it goes JDS, Bigfoot, JDS. Fucking hell. So in 5 fights, he fought only 2 opponents. slim pickings in the heavyweight division, and it still is these days. Yeah, I guess Ngannou has that power that is fucking insane, and if he lands, you can be in trouble. And if Kane is severely depleted and these injuries have really taken a toll on him, perhaps he can't put that pace on people anymore. But just on because we don't know, we haven't seen him in so long, I do favor him here, but fucking anything could happen, and there's no way I'm betting this fight. So I'm going to pick Kane to get maybe a second or third round stoppage, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if he comes out and looks shit and Ngannou sparks him, and that's it. And man, you gotta think if Ngannou gets a win here, is that the last time we ever see Kane? Because it'll be pretty discouraging, and where would he go from there? I think that's about all I got for today. I'll be back with Matt tomorrow. Fire through some questions for us, put them on the comments on this video, or hit up the Instagram, which is NAUGHTYBOYMMA, or my Twitter, LOUKNUX DTD, my email, LUKNUX@gmail. And what was the other methods? But yeah, give that Instagram a follow as well, and the Twitter, and get to talking to us. Thank you very much for joining me or watching. We'll be back tomorrow. Looking forward to this card. Oh no, I got to go for my bets. Shit, I nearly forgot. Sorry. Fucking hell. I might play some more when the odds haven't come out for the following week's card yet, but I might play some more then. We'll see what happens. But yeah, so my bets for this week, I got 3 units on Fairley over Miles Jury. Did I just say I wasn't going to bet that fight? Well, I did. Fairley paying $2.50, and I got 4 units on Felder over James Vick, who began as an underdog. Now they're even money. That line could shift even more because people love betting James Vick for some fucking reason. So if it changes a bit, I might put another unit or 2 down. We'll see what happens because Felder's going to smoke him. There is the issue of how Felder recovers from that last fight because that was pretty brutal, but he'll be all right. Parlays carried over from last week. Adesanya, and this week Rivera and Felder. 3 units on that. Adesanya, De La Rosa, and I need Luque to come in for a 4-unit play on that parlay. And then I've got Holzman and Andrea Lee parlayed together. So I may play some more. You can follow my betmma.tips profile, LOUKNUX, if you want to have a look at those, and they could be updated later in the week. But yeah, I gave all the farewell information before, so thank you for joining me. Be back tomorrow, all going to plan. Shot.